Okay, good morning. We're up to Reish Samach Daled, New Simon. So Dinei HaPsila V'Hashem, and now we're talking about the halachas of Hadlakas Neris, and we're talking about those wicks and oils that are kosher or usable for Hadlakas Neris. Says the Mechaber, Aleph, Ein Oisin Pesila L'Ner Shel Shabbos. You shouldn't use a wick for Shabbos candles. Bein ner she'al hashulchan, bein ner she'madlik, bein kol ner she'madlik b'bayis. Whether it's actually for Shabbos candles, which you're going to put on the table, which we've said in the past, because that's part of Onik Shabbos. That's one of the three reasons why we like Shabbos candles, that it should shed light on the food, and that enhances our Onik Shabbos, and therefore it should be on the table. Or bein kol ner she'madlik b'bayis. Or in fact, any candle that you light in the house, you should not make the psila from the wick midava sheha'or ein nechaz bay, where the fire, the flame won't catch on well, and a nisrach sviva, but rather it sort of just moves around. V'shaleves kefetzes, and the flame jumps, it doesn't burn well. Kamo kagoyin semer, for example, like wool, v'seya, or hair, v'chiyotzi bohem. But rather, you should make it from something which is better quality, and something where the flame will latch on well. Could go in pishton, like nefutza, like combed flax, or beged sheish, or a linen material, for tzemer gefen and cotton wool, for canvas like hemp, these sort of things. Says the Ramah, and if you do light from a prohibited material, also you can't benefit from it. And we'll see why in Mishnah Berurah. If you've got a candle where you've got permitted material, and there are other candles with prohibited material, then then you can benefit from the other lights. And so too activities which could be done without the use of a candle, then that you can do. Okay, that's the Mechaber and the Ramah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Midava. Now, what is the reason you shouldn't use this inferior material? Says the Mishnah Berurah, which don't illuminate well, is you're frustrated that it's not illuminating, it's not lighting up well, and you might tilt the kli and upsilat so that the oil sort of flows, gravitates towards the wick, that it would light well, and therefore you've got major problems of being over mavir, of kindling on Shabbos, which of course is an av malacha. Okay, so one of the bad materials was canvas. Sorry, this is a good material. Which one was it? Canvas is a good material. You should avoid it if you can, if there's a better one available. These, whether it's referring to the wicks or whether it's the oil itself, and you can't get benefit if you do use one of these inferior materials. You should not get benefit to do activities in front of it. And even an activity which doesn't need a lot of light. We're still concerned you might tilt the wick towards the oil. Because if it's something which needs a very close inspection and detail, because that can't be done anyway. You can't do any sort of close reading next to a lamp because you might tilt it. Even if you've got a shomer, you've got someone who's watching you, that you might, to protect you from tilting it, you still can't do it, because it's almost inevitable that you're going to want to sort of move the wick. But if we said, if there are other, that you've got sort of kosher wicks and non-kosher wicks, then mutter lishtamish. Even if the candles are in another room, and the prohibited ones are in one room, and then the other candles in another room. Since you've got ultimately a ner kosher in one other room, that will remind you not to tilt it, even in the other rooms. That he's strict, and he says no. The kavan of the Ramah is it's only permitted when you've got kosher ner in the room with the prohibited one. But if it's in a different room, that doesn't help you. He compares our situation with Ner Chanukah to this Yesh Omrim. When it comes to Ner Chanukah, you have a shamash. So therefore, you're allowed to sit by the candles because you've got the kosher candles and the non-kosher candles. The Chanukah candles, you can't get benefit. Also, the shamash me'orei. But the kosher candle, the shamash, you can. But that's only when in the same room. If I've got a shamash in the other room, it's not going to help me. And therefore, so you see very clearly like the Eli Rabbah. So therefore, although the Magen Avraham is Mekel, however, the Eli Rabbah and the Gon and the Korban Nesalah seem to say that it's got to be mamish in that room for you to benefit if you've got the combined candles, the kosher and the non-kosher candles. Okay, Belay Ner says, what was that going on? Vov, this is on the Ramah still. That mutar lishtamish le'orach acherim v'chein davar she'efshar belay ner mutar lasis afilu es haneres. Kagain, what sort of things, what activities can you do even without a candle? That would be permitted. So, for example, kagain lishkov v'cheder, to go to sleep, to lie down, or limshech yain min hamartef, sort of to pour from a the martef he translates at the bottom there is a berez, a tap. So that's very, you don't need a lot of a light for that. You just turn the tap on, it's easy. V'hainu derech kli shekorin hon liber beloshen Ashkenaz avlo derech barzo. But not, he says in the bottom there, number 2, in the Targum, he says nekev b'chovis lahitzos noizlim shoypokuk b'pkak eitz v'chador. You got like a plug in it. That needs a lot of detail. So that's more complicated. But if it's just lying down or just opening a tap, that would be beseder. Mutalasoi. So Eli Rabbah Pirush davka kishiyesh al kol ponim ner echod kosher b'bayis. So long as you've got one other kosher ner in the house, that would help you in another room. That would be mutar. Okay, and we said at the end, the Ramah said, Shabbos yesh lahakol b'di'eved, v'im yesh ner echod kosher, v'oimed et ner pozin. Therefore, if you have one ner kosher, the hainu is made out of a psil, which is good, and you've also got a ner posel, the hainu, you've got a psil, which is made from material which doesn't burn well, and you might come to play around with it. If you've got both there, then it's mutar afilu shelo l'tzorech Shabbos, even not for a Shabbos use. For example, I don't know, you want to do something out there, some other activity. Shelo yehei ela ner echod bilchud, or kamesh shekosov siman reish ayin vov, sif dalet ayin sham, ba'ayin b'halacha. V'hainu davke le'inin l'shtamish b'shekva hidlik. That's when you've already lit it. Or mitam zekimen de yesha ner kosher shemadlik yofa, sulei osi lahates. You might not come to move it. Aval ein lahaka mitam zeh lahadlik lechatchila ner kosher impossible. We shouldn't do this lechatchila. Okay, good. Beseder. If I can just ask those on Zoom if they could put themselves on mute, that would be good. Okay, base. Halacha base. Korach davar shemadlikin by al davar she'ein madlikin. That means you've got psila. So this simon is talking about the din of the psila, what wicks are kosher to use, and there are certain things which are good and certain things which are not good. But what if you want to sort of wrap a kosher one with non-kosher one around it? So you've got sort of a combined psil. So says the Mishnah, says the Machaba in Sif Beis, Korach davar shemadlikin by al davar she'ein madlikin by. You do it together. Im nischavin lahavos. It depends what your kavanah is. If you want to make it thick, pirush lasos over hapsila kadei lahoisif oira, that you want to make it a thicker wick, so it's going to be more light, then also you can't do that. The im nischavin lahakshes hapsila, but if you want to sort of make the kosher psil stronger, tougher, kadei shetei medes, that it will stand more firmly, v'lo teshalshel lamata, and it won't sort of unravel, then mutter. So it depends what your kavanah is. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Cotton Test. We'll just stop there for, we'll stop and do the Mishnah Berurah till there. Also, why is it that if you've got two materials, one kosher, one not kosher, if your kavanah is to make a stronger flame, it's no good. Says the Mishnah Berurah also after atzo al yedei ha-kricha ha'or nechas l'mei yafa, even though it will the flame will latch on more, v'lo osi lahatos, and therefore you're not going to come to do the ultimate concern, namely to come and move the psil towards the shemen, which is a problem of kindling of havara. Afinu hachi is also gezer shem yadik by levadai. It's a gezer you might come to use the non-kosher psil. That's the concern. mutter. But if, however, you're doing it to strengthen it, then it's mutter. Afilu madlik shneim yachad. Even if you're burning both psilos together, since you're not using the non-kosher psil as a fuel, as it were, as a wick, then it's just there to strengthen it. Then it would be loy gozruba. Then it would be okay. All right, let's just continue the machava. Umitam zeh, 3 lines from the bottom. Umitam zeh mutar lichrich dovish emadlikin by al gabi gemi. You're allowed to use a psil which you can light with al gabi gemi, with some rubber or something, a kash or straw, liten psila ba'ashoshis, so that the psila would sort of stand alone in the ashoshis, in the lantern. Says the Ramon, noistin garga shel melach, you can put a piece of salt, or gris shel pul, or a piece of pepper, I think, al pihaner be'erev Shabbos kadesh yehei doilek yofa b'Shabbos. That somehow helps it illuminate better, and that would be allowed. Says the Mishnah Berurah Yudalev shel melach lefisha melach tzoyle les hashemen shetzimoshech acha psila, because the effect of salt is that it sort of melts, it makes the oil burn more clearly, and therefore that's allowed. And shall pull k'dei laniach hapsila olav, sort of to weigh it down. V'toisefta perek beis isatama isakain k'dei sheyesh shoyhe v'doilek. Okay, and therefore that would be allowed. Okay, let's do Gimel. Says the Mechaba, ein madlikin ner l'Shabbos ele mishemen hanimshach acha psila. So till now, Aleph and Beis, we're talking about the psila, the wick itself, the material to use. Some are more, likely, some are better, and some are not good. Now we're talking about the actual shemen. So ein madlikin ner l'Shabbos el mishemen hanimshach acha psila. You've got to use oil which sort of draws towards the psila and will feed it well, and will be good oil. Lefichach ein madlikin bezefes. You can't use pitch. V'lo b'shaiva, some sorts of wax. V'lo b'shemen ha'osu mitzemer gefen, and not from oil made from cotton. V'lo ba'alya, from the fat of the tail of an animal. V'lo b'chelev, nor with forbidden fats. V'chein ein madlikin be'itron, nor could you use itron. This is all familiar from the Mishnah in Bameh Madlikin, right? Not with tar, because it's a very bad smell. And therefore you'll walk out. And therefore the problem will be, the whole purpose of this extra illumination is to be Oinek Shabbos. And if you're going to leave the room because of it, it's sort of self-defeating. V'loi bitzri, with balsam, and that, because actually that's a very nice smell. On the contrary, it's a very nice smell, and it will waft all over the place. Shemi yistapik mimenu, you like it so much, you'll sort of take some of the oil out. V'nimtza maschayv mishum machabe, and that's extinguishing if you take some of the oil out. So these are some of the oils that you cannot use. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sifkot Yud Gimel, bezefes, hainu sheyanichem baner, that you put it in the candle, v'yitin apsila b'seicham, and you put the wick inside it, k'moshe oisen b'shemen, avol neiris ke'in shelonu, but our candles, mavur b'sif zayin deshari. Our candles are okay, and the truth is nowadays, our candles and even our wax candles, they're of top quality, and therefore there's not a problem with any of this. Olive oil, we'll talk about, there's a hiddur to use oil and things like that, but certainly our wax candles is not what the Mechab is referring to. Ein madlikin b'shimrei shemen, with the sediment, the residue of oil, duhu of, which is very thick, ve'ein nimshech heitev acha psila, and again it doesn't draw to the wick very well, and therefore we shouldn't use it. Yudalad v'lo b'chelev, not with forbidden fats. V'shuman habehema hu gamkein bichlal chelev in zeh. The fat of a behema is also included in that. Commercial biranu b'behalacha. V'in chema. And what about using butter? Using chema, yesh la'ayin. One can deliberate about that. Ach lefi ma sheyodua derech lahatich hachema. We know that if you put a wick by butter, what will happen? It will melt. It will actually heat up the butter before it actually uses it as a source of oil, and therefore you've got a problem of cooking. And therefore, yesh eitza lezeh. I've got an eitza. Maybe add a bit of other kosher oil, and that might help. Better to avoid using butter. If you've got other ones. Because sometimes you're going to come to bishul problems. It's a bishul, and you've got a problems, and you put other oil there, and you put chaylev. So you put chaylev, which is ultimately meat. Yeah, it's fat from there, and therefore you've got major problems. You're lighting Shabbos candles, and you've got problems of bishul basar v'cholov for gamal issa hana. So you're vicariously doing a whole bunch of other problems. Unless it's olive, it's the shuman of an oif, where it's therefore this is drabonon, and therefore there's no issa hana or whatever. There's no issa bishul, no issa hana. If it's an issa drabonon, if it's oif, the bottom line is best avoid it. Tesvov v'yanichena v'yetze. So we said if you use itron, which is tar, it gives a very bad smell, and the concern is you might leave the room. Like we've discussed, because that's part of Onik Shabbos. Bitzri is balsam, which is a nice smell. Hu shemen afar simain v'reiche toiv ma'od. That the concern is the other way around. The concern is that you might come to take some of the oil. Says the Mishnah Berurah Yud Zayin, yistapek memenu v'yesh oid tamach. And there's another concern, b'shas mipnei shehu off, because it's very, I think that means it's sort of sticky. V'nidbak b'kisle habayis, and it might stick to the walls, or mavres habayis, and it's a fire hazard. And therefore it's best to avoid this balsam for this second reason as well. For Odin Bol al Mamoina v'yovel lechabes, and he might extinguish on Shabbos and cause a flame, and who knows what. Because I'm going to Avram the mizel lamadnu shelo yistem atanu be'etzim. You've got to be careful generally of fire hazards, particularly, of course, throughout the week, but also on Shabbos as well. And therefore, don't clog up your oven with wood. Shelo yovel zechil Shabbos al dezeh. There might be like a piece of wood that might fall out, and then you might come to extinguish it. So therefore, just be very wary of that. Okay, so far.
The nice sense, you should be allowed.
Yeah, but candles, because you're not going to take the shemen, that would be okay. L'chaira. Okay, Peseda, we'll leave it there.